Okay, guys, this is going to be our first lesson in music theory, and this is what we need to do to understand how songs are put together. Now, when I say music theory, I'm talking about the nuts and bolts of creating music. When we first start out, we learn music by listening. We, hear something, we process it. But now we're in the writing portion of music. So just like you learned language, just like you learned how to speak by hearing other people speak, eventually you had to learn how to write as well. It helps communication. It helps us get things done faster, frankly. So the same thing is with music. We learn music by hearing, by listening, but then eventually we need to learn how to write. And also, this music theory, this process of writing, allows us to freeze music in time. Music is something that has to move through time for us to understand it. But when it's written on the page, we can freeze it, we can analyze it, we can go over what thoughts went through a composer's head as he was creating. So music theory is going to help us understand how composers and songwriters put things together. Now, we're not going to really dive into music theory very far right now, so don't worry if you've never ever had any kind of music training in your life. It doesn't matter. You're going to understand this. We're just going to go over some nomenclature things, some terms, and a little bit on how to count and those types of things. So let's get started. So what you're looking at here is a staff. This is what music is written on, okay? So the entire page, everything you see here, is a staff. All right, that's the whole deal. Now, within that staff, you'll see we have vertical lines and horizontal lines. Now, these are units of time, right? Now, basically a staff is a graphing system where you plot notes on your graph. And going from left to right is time. You read just like a book, left to right. If you go up and down, you're talking about pitch. That's how high or how low a note is. So we're only dealing with the x-axis, or the moving from left to right, the time of it, right? So these boxes, all right, you see the vertical lines, these are called measures. And we use measures to organize our music, to organize our time in music, because if we didn't have measures, when we would start playing a song, we would have to count up to 1,500 or 1,000 or whatever it is, depending on how long the song is. Now, when you're playing an instrument and you're watching a conductor and you're listening and all this other stuff, you don't have time to think about counting that high. So we break it down into smaller units of time, and for us, it's just going to be counting up to 4. Simple as that. Now, the lines that separate the measures are called bar lines, not the things you stand in when somebody wants to ask for your ID. Bar lines are basically like the reset button. Okay, if we hit a bar line, we're back to 1. So we're going to count in every measure: 1, 2, 3, 4, bar line, then 1, 2, 3, 4, then bar line, and 1, 2, 3, 4, bar line, so on. Keeps it nice and organized for us so we're not counting up to 1,000,000, like I said. Now, what is it that we're counting? Well, we're counting the beat. And anytime you've tapped your foot to a song, you were counting the beat, whether you knew it or not. So that foot tap is what we're going to count, and I'm going to use these notes, which are called quarter notes, to count. Okay? Now, this is what a quarter note looks like. It's a dot with a stick on it, right? Otherwise known as a note head and a stem. So when we're counting, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then, like I said, we hit the bar line, and we're going to do it all over again. Okay? So, more quarter notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. And there you go. Then you're back again. So right off the bat, you're reading music. If you can count 1, 2, 3, 4, you can actually read music. Now, you heard me say that what you're counting is the beat, or the what we call in music the tempo of the song. Now, tempo is a fancy word for beat, but it also means the speed at which music moves. And that speed is determined by whoever counts off the song. I can count off a song 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it's going to go really fast. Or I can count it 1, 2, 3, 4, and that just means it's going slow. So the tempo is determined by whoever decides, or whoever writes the song, or whoever decides to count it off. Okay? So that's some basics on counting and how music is set up. All right? The next video, we're going to talk about these little guys at the beginning of the staff and some other features on how music is put together. If you have any questions, just send me an email or a text, all right?